I'll buy you that oceanfront mansion by the sea, darling, my son boasted to his cunning wife. That old fool will sign anything we put in front of him, he smirked. She already pictured the infinity pool and crashing waves. But 7 days later, their crooked lawyer went pale when he saw what I had actually signed. Before continuing, subscribe to the channel and write in the comments what time it is in your region right now. My name is Martin Bishop. I'm 67 years old, living in San Diego, California, in a house I designed myself back in 2000. Spent 35 years as an architect before retirement. Always believed family came first. Funny how that worked out. These days, I restore antique clocks. 23 timepieces from the 18th and 19th centuries, each one a puzzle of gears and springs. The work taught me patience, attention to detail, and that complex mechanisms are built from simple, honest parts working together. I should have paid more attention to that last lesson. My son Jeffrey is 38. He wasn't always like this. When he was 7, he'd wait by the window for me to come home, then sprint down the driveway shouting, "Dad's home!" Somewhere between that boy and the man in my living room now, something changed. The bankruptcy did it. Last year, his chain of craft coffee shops imploded. He'd invested everything. Savings, borrowed money, even a loan I co-signed. The shops were supposed to be the next big thing. Instead, they became a cautionary tale. After the bankruptcy, Jeffrey and Kimberly moved in. "Just temporarily, Dad," he said, standing in my doorway with boxes and defeat in his eyes. "Just until we get back on our feet." 13 months ago. Kimberly entered Jeffrey's life 5 years ago. Beautiful, the kind of polished beauty that costs money to maintain. Blonde, perfectly styled designer clothes. She's 35, which she mentions frequently, usually regarding how she still has time to build the life she deserves. At first, she seemed good for Jeffrey. Ambitious, driven, supportive. Their first Christmas, she brought homemade cookies and seemed genuinely interested in my architectural stories. She called me the best father-in-law in California. That version of Kimberly evaporated 3 years ago when Jeffrey's business started struggling. Living under my roof this past year has been an education in manipulation. Kimberly perfected the art of concerned comments. "Martin, you're looking tired. Are you sure you should be driving? Did you take your medication? At your age, you can't afford to forget. Maybe we should get you some help around the house." Every sentence carries an underlying message. You're old. You're declining. You need us. Jeffrey joined the chorus. My son, who used to defend me against anyone, now watches silently. Sometimes he adds his own. "Maybe we should look into assisted living, just to have options. I could handle your finances with power of attorney, would make things easier. They've systematically isolated me. My weekly poker game? You shouldn't be out so late at your age. My Saturday lectures at the community college. Time to let younger people handle that. Even my neighbor Beverly gets intercepted. He's resting," Kimberly says. "Maybe another time." The evening of March 12th changed everything. I was in my workshop, carefully cleaning the gears of an 1878 carriage clock. The work requires complete silence and concentration. You have to hear the tick, feel the tension in each spring. That's why I noticed when their voices in the living room suddenly rose in volume. I set down my tools and moved quietly toward the hallway. "I'm telling you, I'll buy you that oceanfront mansion in La Jolla, darling." Jeffrey's voice, warm with promise. "The one you showed me with the infinity pool and the beach access. How?" Kimberly's voice was sharp, eager. "Your father won't just hand over $2 million. "He won't have to hand it over." Jeffrey laughed, actually laughed. "We sell this place, take the money, and buy your dream house. Simple." "And Martin?" She spat my name like it tasted bad. "Screw that old fool." Her voice turned venomous. "He's practically senile anyway. Did you see him searching for his glasses yesterday? They were on his head." Jeffrey's response made my blood freeze. "The old fool doesn't understand anything. He'll sign whatever we put in front of him. Pierce already has the power of attorney documents ready. Once Dad signs those, the house is as good as ours." "What if he doesn't sign?" Doubt crept into Kimberly's voice. "He will." Jeffrey's confidence was absolute. "He always does what I ask. Always has. Always will. He's weak that way. Pathetic, really." I stood in that hallway, my hand gripping the doorframe, feeling like someone had reached into my chest and squeezed my heart. This was my son, my Jeffrey, the boy I raised, the young man I supported through college, the entrepreneur I backed, even when I knew the business plan was shaky, the son I would have done anything for, calling me a fool, planning to steal my home, plotting with a lawyer to take everything I'd built. I moved back to my workshop on silent feet, sat down at my workbench, and stared at the partially restored clock. The mechanism was exposed, all its gears visible, each piece serving its purpose in the larger design. That's when I understood what I had to do. I'd spent my career designing structures, understanding how each element supports the whole. I knew about foundations and stress points, about building something that could withstand pressure, about creating something permanent. If Jeffrey wanted to play games with legal documents and lawyers, he'd chosen the wrong opponent. Because while I might be 67 years old, while my hair might be gray and my hands might sometimes shake, my mind was still sharp. Sharp enough to design buildings, sharp enough to restore complex antique mechanisms, and definitely sharp enough to protect what was mine. The clock ticked steadily on my workbench, each gear turning in perfect precision. Time to build my own mechanism, one with a very specific purpose. The next morning I made breakfast like nothing had happened. Scrambled eggs, bacon, toast. Jeffrey's favorite since he was 10. "Morning, Dad," he said, walking in with Kimberly. His smile looked genuine. If I hadn't heard him call me a fool 8 hours earlier, I might have believed it. Old habits. I slid eggs onto plates. Architects wake up early. Kimberly barely acknowledged me, just poured coffee. No good morning, no eye contact. I watched them eat, studied them like blueprints, looking for hidden flaws. Jeffrey's hand shook, reaching for salt. Kimberly checked her phone every 30 seconds. "Any plans today?" I asked casually. "Just some errands," Jeffrey said. "Nothing special." Nothing special. Right. Like meeting with their lawyer friend Pierce to finalize their scheme. But I just nodded, played the role of the oblivious old man they apparently thought I was. After breakfast, I retreated to my workshop. But I wasn't working on clocks. I was thinking, planning, building a blueprint in my mind. I remembered Jeffrey's birth. January 15th, 1987, during a rare San Diego cold snap. I was designing a commercial complex when Martha called from the hospital. I dropped everything, drove 90 down I-5, got pulled over, explained my son was being born, and somehow got a police escort. When I held Jeffrey for the first time, I made a silent promise. I swore I'd always protect him, always support him, always be there. 38 years later, he was planning to rob me. The following day, Kimberly left a stack of glossy real estate brochures on the kitchen table. Not even hidden, just sitting there, flagged with pink sticky notes. Oceanfront mansions in La Jolla, each one more expensive than the last. $4 million, $5 million, $6 million. Her handwriting on one of the notes, "This is the one," with 3 exclamation points and a heart. I picked up the brochure, studied the photos of a sprawling white mansion with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the Pacific. The listing price, $4.7 million. "Beautiful property, isn't it?" Kimberly appeared in the doorway watching me. "Expensive," I said carefully. She shrugged, a small smile playing on her lips. "Some people can afford their dreams." The implication hung in the air. "Some people like us, once we take your house." I set the brochure down. "I'm going for a walk." "Be careful," she said, her voice dripping with false concern. "The sidewalks can be uneven." I walked to Beverly Holland's house at the end of the street. She was tending her garden. Beverly's 71, a retired nurse, sharp as ever. We'd been neighbors 15 years. "Martin," she pulled off her gloves. "Haven't seen you at the community center in weeks." "Been busy." She studied my face. "Everything all right?" I hesitated. "Beverly, have you noticed anything strange about Jeffrey and Kimberly?" "Since you ask, yes. That wife of his intercepts visitors. Last week, Tom from the Architectural Society brought journals you requested. She said you weren't well enough and took them." "She never mentioned it." "I figured." Beverly's expression hardened. "Martin, I know manipulation when I see it. They're isolating you. That's the first step in elder abuse." "Elder abuse?" The words hit like cold water. "Watch yourself," she continued. "If you need help, call me, day or night." That evening, Jeffrey knocked on my workshop door. Hey, Dad, got a minute? Of course. He sat across from me, serious face on. I want to talk about your future. You're 67? Healthy, thank goodness, but we need to plan ahead. What if something happens? Kimberly and I think you should give me power of attorney, just as a safety measure. Power of attorney. Exactly what I'd heard them discussing. I let confusion cross my face. What does that mean? I can help with financial decisions if you can't make them. Pay bills. Manage accounts. Purely precautionary. I rubbed my chin, playing uncertain. That sounds like a big step. It's standard for people your age. I found a lawyer who specializes in this. We could meet next week. Let me think about it. Jeffrey's jaw tightened briefly before the mask returned. Sure, Dad, but don't wait too long. After he left, I sat in my workshop, staring at the exposed mechanism of the carriage clock. Each gear had its purpose, each spring its tension, everything working together in perfect, honest precision. I thought about the house I'd designed 25 years ago, the countless hours at the drafting table, refining every detail, the pride I felt watching it take shape, brick by brick, window by window, the life I'd built inside these walls. And I thought about Jeffrey's words, the old fool doesn't understand anything. That night, I made my decision. I wouldn't just defend myself. I wouldn't just protect my assets. I would act first, strike before they knew what was happening, build a counter mechanism so elegant they wouldn't see it until every gear had turned and locked into place. They wanted to play games with lawyers and documents? Fine. But they'd forgotten something important. I wasn't just some senile old man they could manipulate. I was an architect. I'd built my career on planning, precision, and seeing 3 steps ahead of everyone else. Jeffrey thought he was the predator, and I was the prey. Time to show him how wrong he was. I pulled out my phone and started researching. Private investigators, trust attorneys, elder law specialists. By midnight, I had a list of names and a rough blueprint forming in my mind. The clock on my workbench ticked steadily, each second bringing me closer to my first move. Jeffrey and Kimberly wanted my house. They could have it. Right after I made absolutely certain they could never, ever touch it. The next morning, I drove to the downtown library. Not my neighborhood one, somewhere anonymous. The reference librarian showed me to a back terminal. Take your time, she said. I spent 3 hours reading about elder financial abuse, estate planning, power of attorney, trusts. The more I read, the colder I felt. The schemes online were disturbingly similar to what I'd overheard. Forums full of stories, people who'd lost everything to their own children, legal loopholes exploited, elderly parents declared incompetent on fabricated evidence. One article mentioned California Welfare and Institutions Code, 15,610.30, laws protecting people over 65 from financial exploitation. Another detailed how irrevocable trusts could protect assets from predatory family. I took careful notes. Knowledge is architecture. Build the foundation first. When I got home, Jeffrey was in the kitchen talking on his phone. He hung up quickly when he saw me. Hey, Dad, where were you? Library. I set my keys down casually. Wanted to browse the new architecture books. You know we have the internet, right? Kimberly appeared in the doorway, coffee cup in hand. Her tone was patronizing, like explaining technology to a child. I like holding real books, I said mildly. Call me old-fashioned. She exchanged a look with Jeffrey. That look. The one that said, see? He's losing it. I pretended not to notice, shuffled to my workshop, but I noticed everything now. Jeffrey's hand hovering near my mail. Kimberly cleaning my office twice weekly. Hushed phone calls stopping when I entered. I watched them like construction sites, checking for structural weaknesses, stress points, places where the right pressure might collapse everything. That evening, Kimberly cooked dinner. Chicken piccata, one of my favorites. She served me with a smile that didn't reach her eyes. You're being so thoughtful lately, I said. Just want to help out, she replied sweetly. You've done so much for us. The irony would have been funny if it wasn't so calculated. Fatten the calf before the slaughter. How's the job search going? I asked Jeffrey. His jaw tightened. Still looking. Market's tough right now. I cut my chicken. I'm sure something will turn up. Kimberly's phone buzzed. She glanced at it, then quickly silenced it. But I'd seen enough. The name on the screen started with P. Pierce, probably. Their lawyer friend. After dinner, I excused myself and went to my workshop. I'd installed a small digital recorder earlier, tucked behind the bookshelf. California is a one-party consent state for recording conversations, meaning I could legally record any conversation I was part of, or that happened in my own home. I'd learned that in my library research. I pressed play on the recorder. Static, then voices from the living room. Told you he went to the library. Jeffrey's voice. To read about architecture, please. He was probably confused about where he was going. Kimberly, dismissive. Pierce says we need to move faster. Get him to sign before... Footsteps. They'd moved to another room. The rest was muffled. But I had enough. I had their voices, their conspiracy, preserved in digital format. The next day I visited a small office on Adams Avenue. Robert Fisher, Private Investigations. The sign read, Fisher was late 50s, gray-haired with careful eyes. Former police detective. Mr. Bishop. Firm handshake. What can I do for you? I laid it out. My son and daughter-in-law had moved in. I suspected they were planning something with my property. I needed to know if they'd hired a lawyer, if documents were already prepared. Fisher listened without interruption. You're not the first with this story, he said. Elder financial abuse is more common than people think. His rate, $3,500 retainer, $150 per hour after. I wrote the check. Money well spent for ammunition. I'll need a few days. I'll check public records, courthouse filings. Legal stuff leaves paper trails. Over the next several days, I became an actor. I played the aging, confused father. Asked Jeffrey to help with my computer password, one I'd changed yesterday. Left my glasses in obvious places, then searched for them. Each performance made them more confident, more careless. I watched Kimberly go through my desk while I napped. Watched Jeffrey photograph my financial statements. They were building their case. Martin Bishop, cognitive decline, needs management. Their evidence might have been convincing if I hadn't known better. 5 days after hiring Fisher, Jeffrey approached me again. Evening after dinner, Kimberly sat on the couch, pretending to read a magazine but watching us. Dad, about that power of attorney we discussed? Jeffrey's tone was gentle, coaxing. I really think we should move forward. I found a great lawyer, specializes in estate planning, very experienced with these matters. I don't know, son. I rubbed my forehead, picture of uncertainty. It's a big decision. Which is exactly why you need someone to help you make these decisions. Kimberly interjected, before it becomes too hard for you to make them at all. The implied threat was clear. Sign now while you can, or we'll have you declared incompetent later. What's his name? This lawyer? I asked. Gordon Pierce. He has an office downtown. Really professional guy. Pierce. The name from Kimberly's phone. I suppose it wouldn't hurt to meet him, I said slowly. Jeffrey's face lit up. Great. I'll set something up for next week. You'll like him, Dad. He'll explain everything. After they went to bed, I sat in my workshop. The carriage clock I was restoring lay in pieces before me. Each gear, each spring, waiting to be assembled in perfect order. My phone buzzed. Text from Fisher. Found something. Need to meet. Tomorrow morning, Harbor Grind Coffee Shop, 10 a.m. I stared at the message, then at the disassembled clock. Time to start putting the pieces together. The Harbor Grind was near the waterfront, quiet, perfect for private conversations. Fisher was already there, leather portfolio ready. Mr. Bishop, he stood. Coffee? Black. We sat. Fisher opened his portfolio, slid documents across. Gordon Pierce, he began. Attorney, office on B Street, legitimate on the surface. Bar member, decent law school. But dig deeper, he tapped the documents. 3 complaints in 5 years, all from elderly clients or families, all claiming manipulation. What happened? Settled quietly, no discipline. Pierce knows how to stay just inside legal lines. He pulled out another sheet. Email correspondence from a previous case. Strategy discussion with a client's son. Similar language to what you described. I read it. Ice spread through my chest. The scheme matched exactly. Get power of attorney. Obtain medical documentation. Sell assets. Divide proceeds. His fee for your son, Fisher continued. $85,000. Your son already paid $15,000 as retainer. $15,000? Money Jeffrey supposedly didn't have. Is this enough? I asked. To stop them? Fisher hesitated. To expose Pierce? Maybe. To protect yourself? You need to act first. Lock down your assets before they can touch them. That's not my area. You need an estate attorney. He slid a business card across the table. Judith Clark. She specializes in trust law, estate protection. Tell her I sent you. She's good, and she's honest. I pocketed the card. What do I owe you? My retainer covers it, but Mr. Bishop? Fisher leaned forward. Whatever you're planning, do it fast. Pierce is preparing documents for a meeting next week. Once those are signed, reversing them will be nearly impossible. I left with Fisher's folder, drove straight to the Gaslamp Quarter address. Judith Clark's office was wood-paneled, lined with law books. The receptionist buzzed me in. Judith Clark was early 60s. Silver hair, sharp eyes behind thin glasses, firm handshake. Mr. Bishop, Robert Fisher called. Please sit. I explained everything, the overheard conversation, Fisher's investigation, the upcoming Pierce meeting. She listened, taking notes. When I finished, she was quiet. How much is your house worth? $2.1 million. Owned outright? And you want to protect it from your son? I want my assets to go where I choose, not where they manipulate me into signing them. Irrevocable living trust, she said immediately. You transfer the property into trust. You maintain the right to live there until death, a life estate. After you die, it goes to your chosen beneficiary. The key word is irrevocable. Once done, it's done. No one can change it, even with power of attorney. Legal, they can't challenge. They can try. But if you're of sound mind when you sign, we'll have a psychiatrist confirm that. And if documents are properly executed and recorded, it's nearly bulletproof. How much? $5,500 for a consultation, document preparation, filing. More if they contest later. I thought of Jeffrey's $15,000 to Pierce. $85,000 Pierce expected. My $5,500 seemed reasonable. When can we start? Now. She pulled out a legal pad. First question, who's your beneficiary? That stopped me. I hadn't thought that far ahead. Not Jeffrey, obviously. I had no other children. No siblings. No close family. Can I think about it? I asked. Of course. But Mr. Bishop? Fisher's right. Time is critical. If you sign Pierce's documents first, even by accident, we're in a much harder position. I left her office with homework. Find a beneficiary. Choose someone worthy of a $2 million house. Back home, Kimberly was on the couch, laptop open. She glanced up when I entered. Where have you been? Doctor's appointment, I lied smoothly. Just a checkup. You didn't mention a doctor's appointment. Didn't I? I blinked, played confused. Must have forgotten. Memory's not what it used to be. She smiled. Actually smiled. My confusion pleased her. Well, I'm glad you went. It's important to stay on top of your health at your age. I nodded, headed to my workshop. Once inside, I locked the door and sat at my workbench. The pieces were coming together. Fisher had given me intelligence. Clark had given me a weapon. But I needed the last element, a beneficiary that would make Jeffrey and Kimberly's defeat complete. Not just protecting my assets, making it meaningful. My phone buzzed. Text from Jeffrey. Pierce can meet Thursday next week. 10 a.m. You free? I typed back, yes. Thursday. That gave me a week. 7 days to finish Clark's documents, record them, and lock down my house before Jeffrey even knew what had happened. 7 days to transform from prey to predator. I looked at the clock mechanism on my workbench. Most of the gears were in place now, each one precisely positioned. A few more pieces, a little more patience, and the whole thing would tick to life. That evening, Jeffrey knocked on my workshop door. Dad, can we talk? Come in. He sat down, put on his concerned son face. I know this power of attorney stuff seems scary, but I promise, it's just paperwork, just to protect you. I know, son. I patted his hand. I trust you. The lie came easily, because I'd learned something these past few days. I was better at this game than I'd thought. Better at hiding, at planning, at building toward a conclusion they'd never see coming. Jeffrey smiled, relieved. Pierce is going to take good care of everything. You'll see. After he left, I returned to my clock, added another gear. check the alignment, and that's when I understood exactly how to repay them. That stopped me. I hadn't thought about where the house would go after I was gone. Not Jeffrey, obviously. No other children. No siblings. No close family worth mentioning. Over the next few days, I researched charitable organizations in San Diego. I wanted my house to mean something, to help people who actually needed help. I found Veterans Hope, a nonprofit providing housing and job training for homeless veterans. They helped 150 to 200 veterans annually, but operated from rented space. Expensive, temporary, limiting. A $2 million house could change everything. The following weekend, I visited their office, a converted warehouse. Inside, despite humble surroundings, everything was organized. Veterans at computers, attending classes, meeting with counselors. A man in his mid-50s approached. "Can I help you?" "I'm looking for Dennis Grant." "That's me." Former military bearing. Straight posture, firm grip, direct eyes. I explained I was considering a major donation. Wanted to understand their work first. Grant gave me a tour. We help veterans transition back to civilian life. Housing assistance, resume building, mental health counseling, job placement. But we're limited by space and funding. He gestured around. If we owned our own building, we could triple our numbers, maybe more. I didn't tell him about Jeffrey, just said I was exploring estate planning options. "Whatever you decide," Grant said. "Thank you for considering us." I left with certainty. My house would go to Veterans Hope. Jeffrey wanted to steal from me? Fine, he'd get nothing. And people who'd actually sacrificed would get everything. 2 days later, I met Judith Clark again. "Veterans Hope Foundation," I told her. She smiled genuinely. "Good choice. I'll finalize everything by tomorrow." The next day, we met in a notary's office. Judith brought Dr. Sarah Chen, a psychiatrist, who evaluated me for an hour. Current events, medical history, complex reasoning. She signed a statement declaring me fully competent. "Your son won't be able to claim you weren't of sound mind," Judith explained. Then the signing. The notary verified my identity. Judith laid out documents. Irrevocable living trust, designating Veterans Hope as beneficiary. Life estate deed, guaranteeing me the right to live in the house until death. I read every page. Then I signed. "This is now permanent," Judith said. "The house belongs to the trust. You retain the right to live there, but you cannot sell, mortgage, or give it away. Neither can anyone with power of attorney. After your death, it automatically transfers to Veterans Hope. Jeffrey can't touch it. Jeffrey can't touch it." We filed everything at the county recorder's office. Official, registered, public record. Legally, I no longer owned my house. The trust did. I drove home feeling lighter than I had in weeks. The main gear was in place. Now I just needed to let the mechanism play out. That evening, Kimberly was in the kitchen when I walked in. She looked up from her phone, eyes calculating. "Where were you?" "Errands," I said vaguely. "Boring stuff." "You've been gone a lot lately." "I'm retired. I can go where I please." I kept my tone mild, slightly confused, still playing my part. She watched me for a moment longer, then returned to her phone. Whatever suspicions she had, she clearly dismissed them. After all, I was just a confused old man. What could I possibly be doing? That night, Jeffrey came to my workshop again. "Dad, I talked to Pierce. He can meet with us the day after tomorrow, 10 in the morning. That work for you?" "The day after tomorrow?" "Thursday morning." They were moving fast. "I suppose so," I said slowly. "Great. This'll be easy, Dad. Just some signatures and everything's taken care of." I nodded, the picture of trust. "If you think it's best." After he left, I pulled out my phone and called Judith. "They want to meet Thursday," I told her. 10 a.m. "Then we're cutting it close," she said. "The recording is official as of today, but Pierce might not check the county records before your meeting. When he does," she paused, "well, he's in for a surprise." I smiled at that. Pierce thought he was setting a trap. He had no idea he was walking into one. Wednesday evening, Kimberly made dinner again. She'd been cooking more often lately. Butter me up, make me grateful, make me compliant. During the meal, she mentioned casually, "We saw a beautiful house in La Jolla last week. Oceanfront, incredible views. Jeffrey and I were just dreaming, you know." "Sounds expensive," I said. Oh, it is. 4.7 million. But someday, she smiled that plastic smile. You never know what the future holds. I looked at her across the table. She had no idea the future she was actually facing. No idea that the dream house she coveted would never, ever be hers. You never know, I agreed. That night, I couldn't sleep. Tomorrow morning would be the moment. Pierce would lay out his documents. Jeffrey and Kimberly would watch me sign away everything. Except I wouldn't sign their documents. I'd sign nothing. Or rather, I'd already signed everything that mattered. I lay in bed thinking about Jeffrey as a boy. The way he'd hugged me when I came home from work. The pride in his eyes at his architecture school graduation. Where had that boy gone? But I couldn't afford sentiment. Not now. Tomorrow would require perfect performance. I drifted off finally, dreaming of clock gears turning, each piece clicking into place with mechanical precision. Thursday morning, 10 o'clock meeting with Pierce. I dressed carefully, presentable but not too sharp, still playing the slightly declining father. Jeffrey drove. Kimberly sat in back, silent, anticipation crackling like static. The building was downtown, glass and steel. Pierce's office on the 12th floor. The receptionist showed us into a conference room. Gordon Pierce entered, expensive suit, oil-slick smile, trying too hard handshake, late 40s, graying temples. Mr. Bishop, warm, practiced voice. Wonderful to meet you. Your son has told me so much, I bet. Please sit. He gestured to the table, documents already laid out. Coffee? Water? I'm fine. We sat. Pierce opened his portfolio and began. Mr. Bishop, your son is concerned about your future. He wants to ensure that if anything happens, he can help manage your affairs. He pulled out papers. This is a general power of attorney. It allows Jeffrey to handle financial matters on your behalf if you're unable. I leaned forward, squinting. A lot of legal language. It always looks complicated, but it's simple. This section, Jeffrey can access your bank accounts to pay bills. This section, manage your property. All routine. My property? My house? Only to manage it. Maintenance, handle issues. Manage it straight into Jeffrey's name, then into cash. Kimberly leaned forward, her eyes locked on the documents like a hawk watching prey. And this? I pointed to another stack. Healthcare proxy. Allows Jeffrey to make medical decisions if you're incapacitated. A lot to take in. Take your time, Jeffrey said, hand on my shoulder, so caring. I read slowly. Pierce's foot tapped under the table, impatient. There's one thing, I said finally. Yes? I was talking to someone, can't remember who. They mentioned I should prepare a transfer document for my house, for tax purposes, so Jeffrey doesn't have problems later. Pierce's eyes lit up. The old fool was suggesting his own fleecing. Actually very smart, Pierce said smoothly. I can prepare a quitclaim deed now, simple document. Transfers property to Jeffrey while you retain the right to live there. Except I wouldn't retain anything. Once signed, Jeffrey would own it outright, could evict me, sell it, whatever he wanted. Could you prepare that? Absolutely. Pierce was glowing. Few minutes. He left. Jeffrey and Kimberly exchanged a look. Pure triumph. Pierce returned with additional documents. The quitclaim deed, transferring my house to Jeffrey Bishop, plus medical forms, the cognitive decline paperwork Fisher warned me about. Perfect, Pierce said. Now if you'll just sign here, here, and here. The moment, the climax of their scheme. I reached into my jacket and pulled out my reading glasses, put them on slowly, then reached into my bag and pulled out different documents, the ones Judith Clark prepared. Before I sign anything, I said, voice suddenly clearer, sharper, I should tell you I've already signed something. Pierce's smile faltered. I'm sorry? 2 days ago I signed an irrevocable living trust, transferring my house to a charitable foundation, filed with the county recorder's office. Public record. The color drained from Pierce's face like water from a bathtub. Jeffrey blinked. What? I slid my documents across. Certified copies. The house now belongs to a trust benefiting Veterans Hope Foundation. I have a life estate. I can live there until I die. After that, it goes to help homeless veterans. I looked at Jeffrey. It cannot be sold, mortgaged, or transferred. Not by me. Not by anyone with power of attorney. It's done. Kimberly's face went from confusion to understanding to fury in 3 seconds. What did you just say? The house is gone. Well, not gone. Just going somewhere better than you. Jeffrey's mouth opened and closed like a fish drowning in air. But you can't. We were going to. Going to steal it? I raised an eyebrow. I know. I heard you. That night you promised Kimberly the La Jolla mansion when she called me a wretch. When you called me an old fool who'd sign anything, Kimberly's eyes went wide. You were listening? In my own house? Yes, Kimberly. Pierce had gone from pale to gray. His hands trembled slightly as he picked up my trust documents and scanned them. I watched him realize the scope of the problem. Not only had his scheme failed, but now there was a paper trail connecting him to an attempted theft from an elderly client. Mr. Bishop, he stammered, This is highly irregular. We had an agreement. We had no agreement, I said coldly. I agreed to meet with you. I never agreed to sign your fraudulent documents. I stood up. In fact, I think I'm done here. Jeffrey grabbed my arm. Dad, wait. Let's talk about this. You're confused. I pulled my arm free. I'm not confused, Jeffrey. I'm probably thinking more clearly than I have in years. I looked at him, really looked at him. This man who was my son, who I'd raised, who I'd loved. You wanted my house? You've got nothing. You wanted to control my life? You've got no power. And you want to know the best part? They all stared at me. There's nothing you can do about it. The trust is irrevocable. That means permanent, unchangeable, done. I walked toward the door, then paused and turned back. Oh, and Jeffrey, Kimberly, you have 30 days to move out. The house belongs to a trust now, and I'm the life estate holder. That means I decide who lives there. And I've decided that's not you. Kimberly found her voice, finally. It came out as a shriek. You can't throw us out. We have nowhere to go. You should have thought of that before planning to throw me out, I said. Or worse, have me declared incompetent and locked away somewhere. I left them there, Pierce gray-faced and trembling, Jeffrey frozen in shock, Kimberly's face twisted in rage. The conference room door closed behind me with a satisfying click. In the elevator going down, I caught my reflection in the polished metal doors. I was smiling. 7 days had passed since my first meeting with Pierce. 7 days of playing the confused old man while building my fortress. Now, walking out of that office, my phone was recording in my pocket, catching every word of the chaos I'd left behind. Behind the closed door, Pierce's panicked voice. Do you understand what you've done? He baited us. If he goes to the bar association... Forget the bar, Kimberly's shriek carried through. What about the house? Jeffrey, shaking. Call another lawyer. There has to be a way to prove he was incompetent. I smiled and walked to the elevator. The drive home took 20 minutes. 20 minutes of feeling lighter than I had in months. The weight I'd been carrying, the dread, the anger, the betrayal, it was transforming into something else. Justice. Cold, precise, and final. When I pulled into my driveway, both their cars were there. They'd beaten me home. Through the window, I saw them pacing, gesturing frantically. I walked in calmly. Jeffrey rushed at me. Dad, we need to talk. Do we? I walked past him. Kimberly blocked my path. You think this is over? I think it's very much over. We'll fight this. We have witnesses who will testify you've been declining. Witnesses? I pulled out my phone, played a recording. Kimberly's voice. He's losing it. Jeffrey. Perfect. Keep documenting. Pierce says we need a pattern. I stopped playback. Their faces went white. I have hours of these. California's one-party consent. Every conversation in my home. Legally recorded. Want to testify about my declining mental state? I'll present your conspiracy to fabricate evidence. Jeffrey sat down hard. You've been recording this? Long enough? I headed to my workshop. About those 30 days, I'm being generous. Legally, I could start eviction tomorrow. You're throwing out your own son? No. You threw yourself out when you decided to steal from me. I closed the workshop door, locked it, and sat at my workbench. My hands were completely steady as I picked up the 1878 carriage clock. Time to finish the restoration. Outside, I heard Kimberly. Call someone. Anyone. There has to be a way to... To what? Jeffrey's voice was hollow. He's right. The trust is irrevocable. I looked it up while driving. We can't touch it. Then we prove he was incompetent. With what evidence? He has recordings of us faking evidence. We're... His voice dropped too low to hear. Hours passed. I worked on my clock, each gear sliding into place with satisfying precision. Around dinner time, I heard the front door slam. Car engines. They'd left, probably to find a lawyer willing to take their doom case. My phone buzzed. Text from Judith Clark. Heard you may have used the documents today. Everything go smoothly? I typed back, perfectly. They're looking for ways to challenge. Let them try. The psychiatric evaluation is solid. The trust is airtight. And if they push, we can make things very uncomfortable with the recordings. Thank you. You did the work, Mr. Bishop. I just provided the tools. I set down my phone and examined the clock. Nearly complete. Just needed the final spring, the winding mechanism, and it would tick again after 147 years of silence. Rather like me, I thought, silent for too long, but ticking now. The next morning, they were gone. I made breakfast in peace for the first time in 13 months. Email from Robert Fisher. Pierce contacted me asking questions. Told him to speak with my attorney. He sounded very nervous. I smiled into my coffee. Pierce knew the danger. If I reported him with Fisher's evidence, his career was finished. That evening, Jeffrey came home alone. He looked haggard, knocked on my workshop door. Dad, can I talk to you? I opened it. I called 6 lawyers. They all said the trust is solid. We have no case. His voice shook. One asked if I had involvement with Pierce's plan. Said it could look like conspiracy to commit elder abuse. I know. Dad, I didn't know Pierce was... Jeffrey, I heard what you said. You called me a fool. You laughed about manipulating me. Don't insult me by pretending this was about my care. Silence. Then, what happens now? You find an apartment, you move out, you rebuild without my money or house. Maybe someday, if you learn honesty, we can talk. But not now. And Pierce? Pierce is Pierce's problem. Jeffrey left. I returned to my clock, installed the final spring, wound it carefully. The gears began to turn. Tick, tick, tick. Perfect rhythm, like a well-executed plan. The next morning, a phone call. Mr. Bishop, Amanda Torres from County Recorder's Office. Someone's filing a claim against your trust. A declaration of incompetence signed by Dr. Richard Kessler, dated before your trust was filed. They claim you weren't mentally capable. I set my coffee down. Dr. Kessler? Yes, but our system flagged it. Your trust includes a psychiatric evaluation from Dr. Sarah Chen confirming competence, both dated around the same time. It's creating conflict. Who filed this? Davidson and Mercer Law Firm, on behalf of Jeffrey Bishop. They'd found a lawyer and produced a backdated evaluation. The filing looks questionable, Torres continued. Dr. Kessler's signature doesn't match our records, and it's an older form we haven't used in 2 years. Send everything to me and my attorney, Judith Clark. I called Judith immediately. They're fabricating evidence, medical documents, backdated. Send me everything, she said sharply. If they're submitting falsified documents, that's criminal. The emails arrived within an hour. The evaluation was clumsy, rushed. Dr. Kessler supposedly examined me and found cognitive decline, memory issues, inability to understand finances. Dated 2 days before I signed my trust. Problem, I'd never met Dr. Kessler. And I had proof. I'd been at Judith's office all morning, then met Dennis Grant at Veterans Hope in the afternoon. Multiple witnesses, receipts, security footage. I called Fisher. Check on Dr. Richard Kessler. Find his connection to Jeffrey or Pierce. By afternoon, he called back. Kessler's real, retired psychiatrist, occasional consulting. Here's the interesting part. He and Pierce went to law school together, 25 years ago, before Kessler switched to medicine. So Pierce called in a favor. Looks like it, and more. The State Bar received an anonymous complaint about Pierce this morning. Detailed allegations. They've opened a preliminary investigation. Anonymous? Sure, I might have had something to do with that. Pierce is panicking, Fisher continued, calling everyone, other lawyers, former clients, even the bar directly. When people panic, they make mistakes, like destroying evidence, which becomes obstruction. I've been documenting everything. I thanked Fisher and hung up. The pieces were falling into place faster than I'd anticipated. Jeffrey and Kimberly thought they were fighting back, but every move they made dug them deeper. The fabricated medical evaluation wasn't just a failed legal strategy. It was evidence of fraud, and fraud meant criminal exposure, not just for Pierce, but potentially for them too. That evening, Jeffrey and Kimberly came home together. I heard them from my workshop, voices hushed but urgent in the living room. "The lawyer says we need more," Kimberly said. "The medical evaluation isn't enough. We need witnesses who'll testify he was confused, forgetful." "Who?" Jeffrey sounded strained. "Who's going to commit perjury for us? Everyone we know likes Dad more than they like us." "Then we make them." Her voice turned calculating. "Your father's neighbors. That woman, Beverly. She's old, might be confused about details. We can shape her testimony. Say she saw him wandering, forgetting things." I'd heard enough. I walked out of my workshop. They froze mid-conversation. "Beverly Holland," I said conversationally, sitting down across from them, "is a retired nurse with 43 years of experience. She's sharp as a scalpel and has already given a statement to my attorney, Judith Clark, by the way, about how you've been isolating me from friends and neighbors. Would you like to hear it?" Kimberly's face flushed red. "You can't prove—" "I can prove everything." I leaned back, perfectly calm. "You want to know what I have? Recordings of you discussing your scheme with Pierce. Evidence of you searching through my private papers. Yes, I know about that. Testimony from neighbors who've watched you intercept my visitors. My psychiatrist's evaluation confirming full mental capacity. Receipts and security camera footage proving I never saw your fake Dr. Kessler. And now, evidence that you're attempting to suborn perjury by coaching Beverly." Jeffrey's face had gone from red to gray. "Dad, please, we can stop this. We can call it off." "Too late for that." My voice was cold now. "You filed fraudulent documents with the court. That's not a civil matter anymore, Jeffrey. That's criminal. Fraud. Conspiracy. Potentially elder abuse under California law." Kimberly shot up. "You're enjoying destroying your own son." "No. I'm protecting myself. I gave you chances. You responded by planning to rob me." My phone rang. Judith. "Martin, the district attorney's interested in the Pierce case. The fabricated documents were the final straw. They're opening an investigation into elder financial abuse. They'll want to interview you." I looked at them while answering. "I'm available whenever they need me." Jeffrey's head dropped into his hands. "How long have you known?" he asked finally. "How long have you been planning this?" "Since the night I heard you call me a fool. Every move you made, I've been 3 steps ahead. Because that's what architects do, Jeffrey. We plan. We prepare. We make sure the foundation is solid. And we're the building collapsing. No, you collapsed when you chose greed over family. I'm just clearing the rubble." Kimberly grabbed her purse. "I'm not staying here another minute." "Then leave. The door's right there. You've always had a choice." She stormed out. Jeffrey stood slowly. "I never meant for it to go this far." "Yes, you did. You just never meant to get caught." He left. I sat alone in my house, truly mine, protected, and listened to the clock tick. Every second perfectly measured, every gear precisely placed. The mechanism was working exactly as designed. The weeks that followed moved with the precision of clockwork. Pierce's arrest came first. Fisher called to tell me they'd taken him in handcuffs from his office. 12 other victims identified, documents seized, his law license suspended pending investigation. The image satisfied me more than I cared to admit. Then the district attorney's office called. They wanted Jeffrey and Kimberly to testify against Pierce, but they were also investigating their role. Conspiracy to commit elder financial abuse carried serious weight in California. The pressure broke them faster than I expected. 1 week after Pierce's arrest, Jeffrey came home early. I heard him and Kimberly in the living room, their voices sharp with panic. "The DA says if we don't cooperate, we could face charges too." Jeffrey sounded hollow. "Real charges. Criminal." "Then we blame Pierce." Kimberly's voice was desperate. "Say he manipulated us. Convinced us you were actually declining." "They have recordings, Kim. Dad's recordings. Of us planning this. Of you calling him names. Of me laughing about it." Silence. Then, "This is your fault. Your father, your stupid coffee shop debts." "My fault? You're the one who found Pierce. You're the one who pushed." "I pushed because you were too weak to act." Their partnership, built on greed, was cracking apart. Days later, they were called in for formal interviews. Their new attorney, a public defender since they couldn't afford anyone better, advised cooperation, tell the truth, accept consequences, hope for leniency. The day after their interviews, they came home and found me in the kitchen making dinner, just me, cooking in my own house like I had every right to be there. Because I did. Kimberly's face was blotchy from crying. Jeffrey looked like he'd aged 10 years. "We need to talk," Jeffrey said. I set down my spatula. "About?" "The DA offered me a deal, probation, community service, if I testify fully against Pierce and plead to attempted fraud." "And you're taking it. What choice do I have?" His voice cracked. "Dad, they have everything. The recordings, the emails, Pierce's notes. If I don't cooperate, I could go to prison." Kimberly turned on me, eyes blazing. "This is all because of you. You did this. You destroyed us." I met her gaze calmly. "No, I protected myself. You destroyed yourselves when you chose to steal from me. We were going to take care of you. You were going to rob me, declare me incompetent, and throw me aside. Don't lie now. It's too late for that." She opened her mouth, but nothing came out. The fight drained from her face, replaced by something uglier, the realization that she'd lost. "I want you both out," I said quietly. "You have until the end of the month. That's more than generous, considering." "Where are we supposed to go?" Jeffrey asked. "That's not my problem. You're grown adults. You made choices. Now, live with them." Kimberly's hands were shaking. "I hate you. I actually hate you, you manipulative old—" "Choose your next words carefully," I interrupted, my voice cold. "Because whatever you say, I can still decide whether to push for maximum charges or show mercy. Right now, you're looking at probation. Keep talking, and I'll make sure the DA knows exactly how unrepentant you are." She went silent. The power dynamic had flipped completely. They stood in my home, at my mercy, facing consequences of their own design. "We had a choice," I continued. "You could have been honest. You could have asked for help. You could have treated me with respect. Instead, you saw me as a target, as a fool. Well, who's the fool now?" Jeffrey couldn't meet my eyes. Kimberly stared at the floor. "Get out of my sight," I said. "Both of you." They left the kitchen. I heard Kimberly's door slam, then the sound of drawers opening and closing. Packing. Finally. The next morning, I had coffee with Beverly on her porch. She'd watched the whole drama unfold from next door, with the attentiveness of a former nurse who missed nothing. "They're moving out?" she asked. "End of the month." "Good. You deserve peace." She paused. "How are you handling all this? Your own son?" "My son made his choices. I'm just making sure he faces the results." She studied me. "You're not as cold as you pretend to be." "No," I admitted, "but I can't afford to be soft. Not yet." 3 weeks later, the moving truck came. I watched from my workshop as they loaded boxes, furniture, the last remnants of their life under my roof. 13 months they'd lived here. 13 months of lies and manipulation. Kimberly didn't say goodbye. She got in her car and drove away without looking back. Jeffrey stood in the driveway for a moment, staring at the house. Then he walked to my workshop door and knocked. I opened it. "I'm sorry," he said, "for all of it. For what we did. For what I became. Are you sorry because you got caught, or sorry because you understand what you did wrong?" He was quiet. "I don't know. Maybe both." "When you figure it out," I said, "really figure it out, call me. Maybe we can talk then." He nodded and left. I watched his car disappear down the street. My son, my only child, gone. The house felt empty that night, but not in a bad way, empty like a clean slate, like possibility. I sat in my workshop and picked up the 1878 carriage clock. The restoration was complete. Every gear in place, every spring set, the whole mechanism ticking with perfect precision. I'd built something that would outlast me. Not just the clock, the trust, the foundation, the legacy for veterans who needed help. Justice, I realized, wasn't about winning or losing. It was about balance, restoration, taking something broken and making it work again. The clock ticked steadily. Tick, tick, tick. Time moved forward, as it always did. 2 months later, I stood in my living room as Dennis Grant addressed a small gathering. The ceremony was Grant's idea, formal acknowledgement of the trust. "Martin has given us more than a building," Grant said. He's given hope, a place where veterans can rebuild their lives. Beverly was there, beaming. Judith Clark attended. Fisher stopped by, and in the back, watching quietly, Jeffrey. He'd asked to come. I'd said yes. After the ceremony, Jeffrey approached. Community service starts next week, he said. 200 hours at a veterans center. Fitting. Kimberly filed for divorce, blaming me for everything. Did you drag her into it? We dragged each other. He looked tired but clearer. I'm in therapy. Court ordered, but I think I need it. Good. Dad, I know you don't want to hear this, but I am sorry. Not because I got caught. Because I hurt you. Betrayed you. His voice wavered. You were right. I asked for forgiveness because I lost. Not because I understood. But I'm starting to understand now. I studied him. Saw genuine remorse. It's a start. Keep going. He nodded and left. The following week brought news of sentencing. Pierce, 7 years in prison, $450,000 in fines. The judge called him a predator, targeting the vulnerable. Jeffrey got probation, 3 years, 200 hours community service, mandatory therapy. The judge called him lucky. Kimberly walked free. Not enough evidence. She lost everything anyway. Divorce, no alimony, no assets. Last I heard, she was managing an office for $3,800 monthly. The La Jolla mansion remained a dream. August arrived with late summer heat. I worked on a pocket watch from 1847 in my workshop. Beverly knocked, carrying apple pie. Thought you could use something sweet? You spoil me. She sat, looking at my completed carriage clock. Beautiful work. You know what I admire most? You didn't just protect yourself. You made something good from all this ugliness. I'm proud to know you, Martin Bishop. After she left, I sat with her words. Proud. Days later, a letter arrived. Jeffrey's handwriting. Dad, I'm not asking for forgiveness. I don't deserve it yet. But I wanted you to know I'm trying. Therapy is hard. I'm working construction now. Honest work. When I'm ready, when I've become someone worthy of your time, I'd like to talk, if you'll let me. I wrote back, when you're honest with yourself, come find me. Short, but an opening. The final day of summer arrived warm and clear. I sat in my workshop, the completed carriage clock beside me, the pocket watch taking shape under my hands. I thought about mechanisms, how complex systems are built from simple, honest parts, how each piece serves a purpose, how everything must work in harmony or the whole thing fails. I thought about revenge, not the Hollywood version, all violence and cruelty, real revenge, the kind that restores balance, that holds people accountable, that protects the vulnerable and makes the world slightly more just. I thought about legacy, not money or houses, though those had their place. The real legacy was what you left behind in the lives you touched, the veterans who'd find shelter here, the example I'd set for standing up against manipulation, the lesson that being old doesn't mean being helpless. The pocket watch ticked in my hands. I'd cleaned each gear, replaced worn springs, polished the case. In a week, it would work perfectly again. Something broken made whole, rather like me. The phone rang. Judith Clark. Just wanted to tell you, Pierce's assets are being liquidated for victim restitution. You'll be getting a check. $28,000. I didn't ask for money. You're a victim. You're entitled to it. Do with it what you want. After we hung up, I knew exactly what I'd do. $28,000 to Veterans Hope. Let something good come from Pierce's greed. I set down the pocket watch and walked to the window. My house, the house I'd designed 25 years ago, that I'd protected with planning and precision, stood solid and beautiful in the late afternoon light. Mine until I died, then a gift to those who'd served and sacrificed. Perfect. The clock on the shelf ticked steadily, each second precise, each moment measured, the complex mechanism working flawlessly because every simple part did its job with honesty and integrity. Honesty, integrity, justice, dignity, the principles that built the most complex mechanisms, the principles that built a life worth living. I returned to my workbench, picked up my tools, and continued the restoration. Tick, tick, tick. Time moved forward. Justice had been served. Life continued. And that was exactly as it should be. If you like this story, please like this video, subscribe to the channel, and share your impressions of this story in the comments. To listen to the next story, click on the box on the left. Thank you for watching,